Welcome in, belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you, who may be watching or listening to today's show. This is episode 130, Week 13's 2-point conversation. And it is my great pleasure to welcome into the bar Mr. Bernie, a.k.a. Team B. How you doing today, Bernie?
Like my weekly projections, unrealistically optimistic.
I hear you, man. All right. This is tough sledding this time. We are getting into playoff push. But before we do that, let's let you in on what we're going to go over in this episode, as we will start off with some player news, go through the studs and duds of Week 13. We'll also settle into a nice 2-point conversation for Week 13, where we go through all of the NFL action up to this point. But before we do any of that, let's make sure that everybody is in the room. Wingmen assemble! All right, now that everyone is here, let's get into some player news. All right, starting off with Devontae Smith was inactive once again. There was some chatter that he might try to get onto the field today, but there really was no optimism that that would be the case. And in the end, he was inactive, missing the Eagles matchup against the Ravens. Also, Keon Coleman, rookie receiver for the Buffalo Bills, has missed at least 3 weeks now in a row, and he was inactive once again for the Sunday night game. And Trevor Lawrence was active, fighting through that AC joint sprain injury. He played against the Texans. However, he took a monster hit right to the face area and left the game on a cart with a head injury. What do you have on these three players? Devontae Smith and Keon Coleman didn't get on the field. Trevor Lawrence battled through, but then left the game early with an injury.
Yeah, it was a sad day for Trevor. I feel bad for him. It was a pretty brutal hit, sliding in, and the defender just lowered his shoulder and went straight at him and hit him right in the square in the head. Mac Jones is their backup, so that's just bad news all around for them. But they fought and they played okay. You know, they didn't play as bad as they could have played. Devonta Smith, I think that's okay. Saquon, Goddard, and AJ Brown are going to take care of business. And Jalen Hurts, he's going to take care of business too. So I'm not worried about that either, even going forward. Coleman, though, I'm not sure. The snow game, I haven't been watching any of this snow game, so I don't know what's going on the field there. Coleman is, one of three that we really don't know who the true number one is there. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
All right. Other players that were either injured throughout the day today, or on Sunday rather. Taysom Hill was carted off the field as he took a helmet hit right to his kneecap earlier today in the fourth quarter. Rashad Bateman, Baltimore wide receiver, was also forced out of the game early with a knee injury. Joe Burrow did finish the game, but he was seen later by reporters as he was heading away from the stadium with a pretty significant limp as he took a cleat to the lower leg. We'll check in on that throughout the week. And Christian McCaffrey started off this game so hot, but he slid down as he felt discomfort from a non-contact injury. I think it was deemed to be a knee injury, but I think it's going to be more related to that Achilles calf area. What do you have on these last four guys? Taysom Hill left the game early, as did Rashad Bateman. Joe Burrow seen with a limp leaving the stadium, and Christian McCaffrey just getting back, but also left early in today's game.
Yeah, it's too bad for the Swiss Army knife, Mr. Taysom Hill. That offense really kind of uses him a lot, so it'll be interesting to see how bad this injury is, because it looks pretty bad. If he's missing time going forward, or if they can, put something together. It's good for Alvin Kamara, though. If they decide to use him, it seems like when he has a good game, they win. And when he doesn't have a good game, they don't win. Derek Carr is going to have to make some plays with his feet, which he did in this game today. So that's okay. McCaffrey, though, I don't know, man. Buffalo is building a new stadium, and it doesn't have a roof. I don't know what they're doing. Like MetLife Stadium, this stadium, are there any other outdoor northern stadiums where players just get hurt and they just, it's like, can we do something about this now?
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't know. I mean, he didn't. These guys know their body, and he walked right off and didn't seem very. I mean, he doesn't show a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty stoic face, but he did not look pleased, obviously.
Yeah.
All right, guys, it is now time to look at this week's studs and duds.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Wingman Fantasy Football, studs and duds.
All right, why don't you start us off with our studs for week 13?
Ooh, I never thought this guy was going to get back on the list. Mr. Jaden Daniel, 29.64 points, 206 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 34 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. He did it all today. Ooh, I like this name. Russell Wilson. This was a pretty game for Russ. He only had like 9 incomplete passes or some craziness like that. 28.86 points. 414 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. Caleb Williams, welcome to the club, bud. 26.14, 256 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 39 rushing yards. Too bad that coach really messed that game up for you, bud. And Mr. Lamar Jackson, 25.38 points, 237 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 79 rushing yards. Look at this. 2 superstars and 2 new kids, man. That's great at the top of this list.
Yeah. Sticking with those quarterbacks in the AFC North, Joe Burrow had 25.26 points. He got that by getting 309 passing yards with 3 passing touchdowns. Tua Tagovailoa for the second straight week. Why am I not starting this guy? Had 25.2 points on Thursday night with 365 passing yards, 2 passing TDs, and 1 2-point conversion. Anthony Richardson, listen to the stat line when we get there, 25.16 points. He's a quarterback, remember. He had 109 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 48 rushing yards, 1 rushing TD, and a 2-point conversion at the buzzer to take the lead for the game winner. What a random stat line. He got a little bit of he had a Taysom Hill stat line, essentially.
There it is.
Just swap those passing yards for rushing yards or something like that, and you'd be about the same. All right, Terry McLaurin. This guy is scary at 23.3 points, had 73 receiving yards on 8 catches, and he got in the end zone twice.
Ooh, I know Amazing Spidey likes to see this next name. First running back on the stud list for the day, Mr. Bijan Robinson, 22.5 points, 135 total yards, 6 receptions, and 1 rushing touchdown. Mr. Najee Harris said, wait a minute, Bijan, don't go too far now. 21.8 points, 129 total yards, 6 receptions, and 1 rushing touchdown. Almost identical stat line there. Mike Evans, future Hall of Famer, 21.8 points, 118 receiving yards, 8 receptions, and 1 touchdown. And you want to play this sound drop? Keenan Allen, 21.8 points, 73 receiving yards, 5 receptions, and 2 receiving touchdowns.
I'm not going to create a sound drop for him, but whenever I hear his name, I'm just going to say, hey, hey. Okay. All right, continuing on here. Parker Washington, he is a receiver for Jacksonville, in case you are unaware. He had 21.3 points today on 103 receiving yards, 6 catches, and he got in the end zone via the pass 1 time. Joe Mixon at 19.9 points. For our managers, 20 points is a threshold for a good day, and he just missed that, but it's still a fine day in terms of fantasy. 119 total yards for Mixon with 4 receptions and 1 rushing TD. Oh, man, Adam Thielen had 19.9 points, and except for a weird replay, he probably would have had even more, as he had 19.9 points on 99 receiving yards, 8 receptions, and 1 receiving TD. That counted. And Rico Dowdle on Thursday had 19.8 points with 123 total yards, 3 receptions, and 1 rushing TD.
Yeah, Adam Thielen had a day, and he had a spectacular one-handed catch, man. It's so sad that they lost that game. All right. Josh Jacobs next up on the list, 19.7 points, 117 total yards, 4 receptions, and 1 rushing touchdown. Another Chicago Bear. Is this the 3rd Chicago Bear on this list now? DJ Moore, 19.7 fantasy points, 97 receiving yards, 8 receptions, and 1 touchdown. Nick Westbrook-Akine, I like the abbreviation you had that for that name there, bud. 19.6 points, 81 receiving yards, 6 receptions, and 1 touchdown. And look at this. Saquon Barkley, pretty far down on this list. 18.7 points, 117 total yards, 2 receptions, and 1 rushing touchdown.
Yeah, I was fearful of that Saquon game all day long. I have to say, we'll talk about a little bit more in the 2-point conversation. I was too afraid to watch this game except for the last minute or two. But I was constantly refreshing the box score, and it seemed like to me he was getting just enough yards to get the first down, and maybe he was falling down because every time it was 3rd and 7, he would get 7 yards so they could run 4 more plays to burn off timeouts. And then he's known for sliding down at the 2-yard line in games that they're going to win to run out the clock. Without seeing it firsthand, I could imagine that he was just like, this is all we need right now for the most clock. I'll get 8 yards and I'll slide. But you can tell me if you saw more about that when we get into that one later.
For sure.
All right, more players on the stud list. Jaden Reed, Green Bay wide receiver, had 18.2 points. He got there by getting 47 total yards on only 3 catches, but 2 of those catches were for touchdowns. Kyren Williams.
Release the Kraken.
Getting back in stride here at 17.8 points with 113 total yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Jamar Chase takes it to the bank at 17.6 points, had 86 receiving yards on 6 catches and 1 receiving touchdown. And his teammate Chase Brown at 17.5 points had 100 total yards on 3 receptions and 1 rushing TD.
And we have another B-Rob on here, Mr. Brian Robinson, 17.4 points, 109 total yards, one reception, and 1 rushing touchdown. Mr. Tyreek Hill, it's good to see a Dolphin on here, a second Dolphin on here, 17.3 points, 83 receiving yards, 6 receptions, and 1 receiving touchdown. And another Dolphin, Mr. Devon Achane, 17 points, 70 total yards, 8 receptions, and 1 receiving touchdown. And both of those players are on the team I played. Great. Do I have one more? I have one more. I'm sorry. Mr. Chad Ryland, 17 points, 5 field goals, and 1 point after.
We're going to finish this out with 2 more kickers who made the list. Chris Boswell at 16 points. He had 3 field goals, 5 extra points, and 1 of those field goals was longer than 50 yards. And Chase McLaughlin, what a day he had. He had the game-tying kick at the buzzer, the game-winning kick in overtime. He finished with 16 points on 4 field goals with only 1 extra point, and 1 of those kicks was over 50 yards in length. What do we have for our duds this week?
Ooh, we're going to start this list off just like the studs list with 4 quarterbacks. Geno Smith, 12.44 points. Cooper Rush, I better rush and get another quarterback out there, 11.8 points. Kirk Cousins, I don't know, this guy just throws interceptions like it's going out of style, 10.10 points. And Justin Herbert, he could not stand upright with all the pressure, 7.98 points. And those two played each other today.
Yep, other does on the list. We have some receivers here as Michael Pittman at 6.7, of course, with Anthony Richardson getting most of his work in actually scoring touchdowns and getting some rushing yards. Not much help here for the receivers. Garrett Wilson had 6.6 points today. Calvin Ridley, oh my gosh, he hasn't been on this list in a while on this side of the ledger, but Will Levis is awful, and Calvin Ridley only had 2 catches for 5.5 points. And Isaiah Pacheco, he was in a starting lineup for one of our managers, had only 5.4 points. That's kind of it's not too unreasonable being that's his first game back, but he was crushing numbers before he got hurt, so 5.4 points lands him on the dud list.
And if your quarterback's on here, you're probably on here, especially if you got hurt. CeeDee Lamb, 4.9 points. Sorry, bud. Chuba Hubbard, 4.3 points. Gus Edwards, 3.8 points. And Mr. Rome Odunze. It's okay, Rome, because your other teammates are on the stud list. So 3.5 for this week. It's okay.
Finishing up this list here, or more on this list rather, we've got Darnell Mooney, only 3.5 points today. Cooper Kupp, I was surprised that he finished off such a bad day at 3.2 points. Tank Dell at 2.8. And Kareem Hunt, this is what makes this interesting here. Kareem Hunt had 2.5. So both of these running backs, not even combined, had a strong day, but they are now splitting the work, making the Kansas City backfield not really very strong plays going forward until this might shake out. Who else do we have on the rest of our dud list here?
Mr. Kareem Hunt at 2.5. That Kansas City game was a little different. Mr. Trevor Lawrence, get well soon, 2.24 points. And Mr. Wan'Dale Robinson, 1.6 points. Please don't start any more Giants unless their name is Neighbors and or Tracy, but you probably won't start Tracy because you're so scared of him fumbling, so you're going to put him on the bench and he's going to score points anyway.
All right, we're going to check in on our Mecca studs.
Mega Studs.
All right, guys, our Mecca stud list is very short this week. No quarterbacks past 30 points, at least up until the Sunday night game. So we have Bucky the Gas Station Irving at 26.0 points, 185 total yards, including a rushing touchdown, and Brock Bowers.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Brock Austin Bowers had 25.2 points. He had 140 receiving yards on 10 receptions and 1 receiving touchdown. I mean, our Mecca stud list was very short, but what do you think about Bucky Irving and Brock Bowers? These guys were monsters this weekend.
Yeah, I didn't see all of Brock's game. Well, I saw most of it, but his performance didn't stand out as much as Bucky's did for me. I watched that game, and Bucky was running, man. He was running through people. He was getting a little dinged up, and he was getting back up and asking for more. He was a beast today.
Yeah, he was a little slow in stat line early, but that third quarter when they started to take over, and just like they weren't necessarily taking over in score, but taking over in play style, he dominated that second half, especially to get those big numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys, it is now time to settle in to our Week 13's 2-point conversation.
Is Jack Del Rio going to go for 2 here,
He's
Rick?
going for 2.
The Raiders will go for 2 and the probable victory with 47 seconds left.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Wingman Fantasy Football's 2-point conversation.
And it's good! Oh my goodness!
All right, before we get into the games, Bernie, I have a couple things I want to mention off the top here. First of all, we are on Bernie playoff watch here. He is down by 3 points, or he's up by 3.25 points. He's up against Deebo Samuel and the San Francisco defense, and we're about 10 seconds left in the third quarter. He is holding on for his slim playoff chances. If he loses, he's out. If he wins, no matter what else happens with anybody else, he's still in because of circumstance. So you got to win this game, and this is just going to hold on type of game. And then as for our theme for this weekend's action, man, these, especially in the 1 o'clock games, slippery footballs, I don't know. People were just dropping the ball all over the place, costly turnovers, a ton of missed kicks, and blown leads.
Oh, yeah.
All right, why don't you start us off with the game of your choice, and we'll get into our 2-point conversation.
All right, let's go back in time a little bit here, and let's get to the Thursday games, and let's quickly run through the Detroit Lions defeating the Chicago Bears 23-20.
So this one, like a lot of these games this week, but even more so on the Thursday night, the home teams got out to huge leads right away, up 16 or more points. I believe Detroit was up 16-0 as they got a couple field goals, couldn't get all touchdowns. And then just slowly in overtime, we had the Chicago Bears on the heels of the passing game come back in this game and get it down where they had a chance to tie it late. I'll leave it for you to set that up, and then we can get into what else you have on this game before we get to the most obvious play of the day in that game.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So Lions built, you were right, 16-0 halftime lead with 4 straight scoring drives. The Bears failed to get a first down on the first 4 possessions. They had 32 total yards. Lions extended their lead to 23-7 in the third quarter, but then it was all Bears after that. Bears rallied late, but failed to execute a final drive with time management issues.
So did you watch that game like in real time?
Yes, I did.
So they had the Bears were down by 3 points. They were driving pretty good in comeback mode. I don't know how much time they had when they started the drive, but it was more than a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I mean, they weren't rushed for time to start with, but they were rushed for time as the drive was moving along. They had 1 timeout left. They were in field goal range after a pass interference call. I'm not sure which receiver drew it, but they got to about I don't know exactly, 28 to 32 yard line, in field goal range, long kick, but in field goal range. And then I believe Caleb Williams took a sack, which kept the clock running, got him. It would be a very long field goal, but even so, they were still in field goal range if they didn't move the ball any further. And the clock went from about 40 seconds down to 6 before they even snapped it. They had a timeout in their pocket. And then Caleb Williams was obviously flustered and just kind of threw it up into no man's land. And it was, I don't think anyone touched it. If anything, his receiver didn't come close to catching it. And the game was over. They were right there. They needed about 6 more yards to be in a stronger field goal range, but they were even in a shot to tie it where they were at. And Eberflus was like, well, we saved that timeout. We're gonna run one more play with 18 seconds left, and then call the timeout if we had, like, say, that 8-yard catch over the middle of the field. So I don't begrudge him for saving the timeout, for using it for your last play before the kick, but they didn't get a last play before the kick.
Exactly. All right. So on the timeline here, we'll start back at 43 seconds, right? 43 seconds. It's 2nd and 10 at the Detroit 25. Timeout was taken. That was their second timeout. Okay. So we got 43 seconds left. 2nd and 10. Caleb Williams passed short left to Keenan Allen, right? Pushed out of bounds at the Detroit 13. Okay. So now we're 2nd and
they were that close. There's a penalty. There's a penalty.
Yep, there's a penalty on Chicago, illegal use of the hands. So they 10 yards enforced at the Detroit 25. So now we're at 2nd and 20 at the Detroit 25. Caleb Williams sacked at the 41. So now we're 3rd and 26 at Detroit's 41. Right? Then that's when we have the incomplete pass deep right to Rome Odunze.
And that was the last play of the game.
That was the last play of the game. So they went from 36 seconds. The clock was stopped, right? They got the sack. And after the sack, they got up and lost 30 seconds before they could get that play off.
So just going by his explanation, like, we wanted to get a snap off by this. Essentially, they wanted to run 2 plays, one more to get closer, and then one to either, depending on what happened on that play, either go for a long bomb touchdown or to kick a long field goal, or if they caught it, a shorter but long field goal. That was like the scenarios there, right?
Right.
And he wanted to save the timeout for whatever that second to last play was, so they could run on the field to do what they had to do.
Right.
But you see this in basketball all the time, for example, in these late game situations, like let's say there's 20 seconds left, and you call the play, like this is our game winning play right here, and you see that your offense doesn't get into it. They miss up. The guy runs the wrong screen, runs the wrong way. The play's not working, and the coach is upset. He's pissed, but he runs on and calls a timeout. Let's reset this. This is not working. We're set up for failure. Something went wrong. When he didn't get up right away, when they didn't start snapping the ball right away, once it got to, you could say like they wanted to wait till 18 seconds. All right, but like he's going to snap at any second now. Once it got to 15, 14, 12, you just run and call the timeout and say, all right, guys, we're playing from here. We have one more. Even with 12 seconds, you can run 2 more plays if you get out of bounds.
Yeah.
Obviously, you would use your last timeout. So you could do a 6-yard out, and you throw it where it's caught, or it's out of bounds, no catch, but there's still time on the clock. And then you can decide to kick that 54-yard kick or throw that 41-yard pass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was a failure on the offense, and we'll put that on Caleb because he's the leader on the field, to get up after the sack, get everybody set, and get the play, either spike the ball, get a play going, or whatever the case is. But then it's also, just like you said, it's the coach's fault for not paying attention to that game clock and going, okay, he's clearly not going to get this done in time. Get the timeout in now. And then reevaluate. Like there's too many people that are making decisions for them not to see that as they need to call the timeout. Your offensive coordinator is going, okay, these are our next 2 options in this scenario. That this should all be going while Caleb is trying to manage it all on the field. So
you got to have your oh crap, pull the brakes moment. Like, all right, this is our plan. I'll give him 2 extra seconds just to give him that leeway.
Yeah.
But after that, like, dude, I got you. I got to take the call here.
But you know what? Ultimately, at the end of the day, the coach got fired. The coach,
yes, he did. He did.
The coach got, the very next day, the coach had to do a press conference and then basically force Chicago's hand to have the first in-season firing for a head coach ever.
Do you think, because he came out and did his scheduled press conference on Friday morning with the job, and after the press conference, he was relieved of his duties. Do you think that it had anything to do with how he handled the press conference, saying like, oh, we did exactly what we wanted to do. It just didn't work out this time. Essentially was his press conference. Didn't take any accountability except he took the accountability,
but he basically said, no, he was basically saying if I had that to do again, I would do it the same way. He basically said that because he didn't think what he did was wrong.
And that's when the ownership's like, well, if you're going to do that again, then we don't want you around. We don't want to see that again.
I'm pretty sure that they were all talking, but like, let's see how this presser goes. And that, I think the press conference pushed it over the edge. No.
Yeah. Like I said, like there's the sack for Caleb Williams. He got up slow. I didn't see a big hit to his head necessarily. I don't. They were coming back a lot in that game, so maybe he was tired, but he was a little delirious, if you will, wasn't paying attention. Like his center was like, get up, let's go. Yeah. There were a couple offensive linemen trying to be like, we got to get up here and either spike it, snap it, do something. And none of that happened. So,
I mean, if it's getting up off of a sack, then I would assume, yes, he probably did have a mild concussion. Most of those big hits, those guys are getting mild concussions. So
I'm getting nervous here, Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 40-point lead with Josh Allen. He just scored his second touchdown himself. He's got 28 points with a whole quarter to go. You got to be effing kidding me. All right, sorry.
Is Josh going to get a 40 burger?
Wow. He's got 28 right now. He keeps running it in. You're up by 35 points. Get him out of the game.
Well, that's the saving grace. Come fourth quarter, they're going to be like, okay, let's get this game's out of hand now. There's no way they're coming back.
Well, that's what I was hoping for. All right, let's move on to our next game here.
Okay, yep, let's go. All right, Dallas defeats the Giants 27-20.
This was a weird game. Again, the home team got out to a decent lead here, and then they just kind of coasted the rest of the way. CeeDee Lamb left the game as he seemed to aggravate his shoulder injury. And just as my perspective as the Aubrey manager, it's like either Dallas scored on long touchdowns or they didn't get into field goal range, or they were like stop right like the 44-yard line. Like he can make that 60-yard kick, but because they were up, they didn't want to, in case miss the ball and get the other team the ball like the 50-yard line. So they kept punting from the other team's 45-yard line when usually they would kick that field goal. So they were never in that range. They were either at the 45-yard line or they would get all the way down and score on like a long play. There were no drives that were hanging out between the 40 and the 20. And that game ended up being closer than it should have been by the end, but Dallas was controlling the Rico Dowdle ran off the second half and controlled the tempo of this game, and Dallas won this game pretty easily, especially the way the script was going.
Yeah, there's really nothing big about this game. DeVito was out, Locke was in, and it pretty much showed that the Giants the Cowboys just ran right through them. Even Dallas's defense, DeMarvion Overshown, he had a 23-yard interception, return for a touchdown and a fumble recovery. So if Dallas's defense is stepping up, Cooper Rush is 7-3 as a starter in his career. They're even with CeeDee Lamb not playing the entire game. Giants are bad. The Giants are bad.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All right, let's get off of this game here. Dexter Lawrence did dislocate his elbow, which is a big loss for the Giants there. Okay. Green Bay Packers defeated the Miami Dolphins 30-17.
Oh my! Miami did not know what time this game started. They just got run off the field to start off the game. They didn't do anything. We heard 3 Dolphins on our stud list here. That was all second half comeback mode, garbage time. They got it within. They got it within a reasonable number. They get within 10, 11, or 14 points, maybe 16. They got within 2 scores, but then Green Bay scored one more time and capped it off right there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or at least or the Dolphins had a turnover as they were trying to get it into that 1-score game. Either way, Green Bay dominated this game. I was a little surprised. Josh Jacobs had a great day in terms of fantasy, but they kept running it up into the pile and kept getting stopped. His best plays were when they gave him the screen passes to the outside. He's really good in the open field. He's kind of like, he's not as big as Derrick Henry. He's not a great catcher, but he's one of those guys, like, because he's a tight ball there of muscle. Once he gets his motion going forward, he's got just enough sweet feet and just enough power to take on the second layer defenders that I think they should give these guys a little more screen work sometimes, especially when they keep running up the middle and not getting anything. I think he only had like 35 yards rushing, but had like 78 yards receiving because he had a couple of big screen plays. But he was the dominating factor. Once again, he controls the clock, and then it was all comeback mode scoring for the Dolphins offense. So it looked a lot better for their offense than it really was. They did not get off the bus on time. They need to start warming up 3 hours earlier or something.
Yeah, it was tough. The Dolphins, they did rally to cut the lead to 27-11, but then, the Packers had a goal line, stand in the fourth quarter.
That's what it was.
You can't get all the way up there and not punch that in, especially with the talent that you have on the field. And then the Packers, they did seal it with the late field goal there. But yeah, it was a rough go for the Dolphins, and it's sad because they look so good. When
in
they
the second
play,
half.
yeah. When they play like to what their capabilities are, they're so good. So that's just tough to see. But Green Bay is not a bad team. Green Bay is no pushover. And maybe the weather really is a thing. So, all right, moving on. Oh, I know you got something to say about this game. Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Las Vegas Raiders 19-17.
Yeah, close game. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to cut you off there. So for the second straight week, we've had a muddled backfield against the Raiders. Last week was the Denver Broncos, where we're like, I said Javonte Williams got most of the snaps and work, but didn't really do anything. Actually, him and Audric Osame both got under 2 points last week. This week, those running backs did better in Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, but they both scored under 6 points each. That Raiders team is not good, but their defensive line is a strength of theirs, and their linebackers, Max Crosby once again causing havoc. Was it Diablo and Spillane and another guy that caught my attention. Their linebackers were tackling really well. So this one, they're starting to stop the run. Their defense is getting good. They're just not good enough on offense to keep up. Although they came back in that second half here. Did Aiden O'Connell got a little bit of a rhythm? What else do you have on this game before we get to the end plays here?
Oh, so yeah, the Chiefs, they built an early lead with the Watson touchdown and field goal. The Raiders, they did rally with the 2 touchdowns to take the lead in the fourth quarter. The Chiefs regained it with Wright's 4th field goal. So Mr. Wright is doing what he's supposed to be doing, what he's getting paid to do now. And then the Raiders' final drive ended with a botched snap at the Chiefs' 32-yard line. Bolton recovered the fumble to seal the Chiefs' victory here.
So there's a couple things here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I thought I heard a whistle. First off, is why only half the guys went for that ball.
Right.
So there's two parts of this discussion here.
Okay.
One is, was it a fumble? You could say yes. The other part is, was the play blown dead before the fumble occurred, making the first part of this conversation irrelevant. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they did blow the whistle. I saw a video about how the refs are supposed to respond when they call certain plays, and then I was watching today other false starts and other penalties and how they react to kind of put those pieces together. The side, I don't know if his name is the side judge, I think, or whatever his title is, threw the flag, blew the whistle, ran in doing the Dante Culpepper dance. You know what I mean? When he runs in blowing the whistle, the play's dead, because if the play was one of those things where like it's a penalty, but let's see what happens, he would stay in his spot because he still has responsibilities of watching the play develop. Once he runs off his post, in his mind, the guy who called the penalty, he thinks the play's dead.
Right.
Because you wouldn't leave your post where you're watching other things.
Right.
Unless the play's over.
Right.
So by the way that ref came in, he blew the whistle. I heard it, but in the replay, it's hard to hear, but you could see his hand go up to his mouth. And his every action that every other ref did based on that call means it's a dead ball. Now, you could say it was a mistake. It shouldn't have been a dead ball penalty. That's a fine debate to have. But the call was a dead ball foul.
Right.
Meaning everything after that is irrelevant. And then those refs came together and the Chiefs are on that side, right? If we call this penalty the other way, the Chiefs are going to win this game, right? So they talked about it. They're like, well, it was a fumble because the penalty was a shift, not a false start. But that's not what your guy called in the real time, and you can't change what you called in a penalty if it's between a dead ball and a live ball penalty.
Yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense. The only thing I would say to that is what's the actual rule for one referee coming in, like you said, making it a dead ball foul, and then another referee overriding that foul, not necessarily a dead ball foul, but any foul. Like what's the procedure? What's the rule book say? What's the protocol? We don't know that because they don't let us, they don't let us have that information. So
Well, once you play once you call the play dead,
mhm.
that moment in time, it's over. You can talk about, we called the wrong penalty. It's really a 5-yard, not a 10-yard.
Mhm.
We'll pump the clock on my whistle. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can kind of you can make the minor corrections you can from that first mistake. So you could say his penalty call may have been wrong.
Mhm.
I'm not positive it was or wasn't. It may have been wrong.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, once that whistle blows, play's dead, man.
Yeah, because
There's
nobody's moving at that point. And if people are moving, it's a safety issue.
Well, that's the thing I saw was the reason why they blow plays dead. How you say, like, sometimes they'll let like an offsides go and Aaron Rodgers will throw that touchdown pass knowing that it's a free play.
Right.
Because it's a safety issue. If half the people are moving and half aren't, someone's going to get hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why they blow the play dead. The error, even though we laugh at it sometimes, the point is to err on the side of safety.
Right.
And if you're not sure what's going on, call it dead. And they do a little bit better now because they have replays. They try and let stuff go a little more. But once that whistle goes, man, that's what made me upset about it more than anything else. You blow the whistle, and every sport you play, the whistle ends the play.
Yeah. Yeah, because somebody might not be looking at the ball. Somebody might be looking at the person they're defending or the person that they're trying to get around, and they're listening for the whistle. Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%.
And by them doing this is going to cause more issues potentially next time, because next time Max Crosby hears a whistle and not sure what the play is, he's going to crack a defenseless Patrick Mahomes, for example. He's like, well, last time you guys blew the whistle and I stopped moving, we lost the game. So now I'm just going to go and play through until motion stops or something. I'm just saying, like, you're inviting bigger issues by not going by what the status quo is there on the whistle.
Yeah. So the Chiefs improved to 11-1, though. That's always a happy positive, I guess. Not really. Nobody likes the Chiefs anymore.
It's weird. They were the golden team, and they still are a little bit. They didn't have the as unlikable cats, but it's starting to become, I don't know, coincidental, conspiratorial, but it's been at least 3 times where they're getting some beneficial calls. Yeah. And especially we noticed they're not that good of a team. They haven't been beating teams by as much this year. I don't want to say they're not as good of a team. Right. They're a different team this year. They need this help to get these wins.
Yeah. Pat Mahomes is not playing his best ball. He's not lighting up the stat sheet. The defense is definitely obviously better this year. But maybe we need this villain because Belichick and Brady are out of the league. So they got to fill this void of who do we not like? Well, who's the next best thing to not like? The bad thing is I actually like Andy Reid. I think he's a really good coach. I think he's really talented. It's like a lot of those players. I'm like, no, I actually like that. But it is what it is. So
yeah, I know.
It's unfortunate. And if it happened to my team, I would probably be so irate, but it didn't. It happened to the Raiders.
All right, score watch here, fantasy-wise here. They did take Josh Allen out. Trubisky's in. Mm-hmm. That's good for me, but bad for you because now you have a potential for some more San Francisco sacks to end this game. At the moment, you are up by more than 2 points, 2.25 points.
Nice.
With how much time is left? Like 7 minutes left? 9.5 minutes left. 9.5 minutes of Trubisky. Do not get sacked more than one more time.
They should be handing the ball off is really what they should be doing. So
Yep.
All right.
What's our next game? Let's get into Sunday now.
All right, let's get into Sunday here. This one was a close one. Nail biter. Indianapolis Colts defeated the New England Patriots 25-24.
So this one I didn't watch a lot of until the bonus coverage kicked in when the earlier games were ending because this one was tighter late.
Yep.
So I don't want to spill the beans here on the last play. What do you have on this particular game before we get to the last drive or two?
Oh, okay. So this was all Anthony Richardson, man. He pretty much led this onslaught, but he didn't light up the stat line. Jonathan Taylor did get some stuff here. He had 96 rushing yards. Alec Pierce, he had a touchdown. But other than that, it wasn't really an offensive, showing by Indianapolis. Richardson's second game-winning drive in 3 games, though, which is a big deal. If he's able to come back and throw this ball with a little touch to it, with a little more accuracy, then that's going to be a dangerous thing here. So it was a back and forth from the first half with the Patriots leading 16-14. The Patriots did score a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. They made it 24-17. Sly's 68-yard would have been a NFL touchdown or NFL record attempt. Just fell a couple yards short as time expired. Patriots, they played good. Hunter Henry, he had a big hit to the head, but he did return to the game. And he had 2 key late receptions for 20 yards. So Drake played good. I wouldn't take anything away from the Patriots and how they played this game. Indy just happened to get lucky and get the play out at the end with Richardson.
What time did that final drive for the Colts start? How much time was left, if you could find it?
I can find it. What are we getting?
Well, I just want to see how methodical or how many yards, how long it took. I saw the tail end of the drive where so the Colts are down by 7. On what all but the last drive of the game, so they scored with either between 5 and 12 seconds left in the game. They scored. I believe it was a pass to Alec Pierce. You can correct me if I'm wrong. It was a touchdown pass, though, to get the tying touchdown. But instead of going for the tying 1-point conversion there, they went for 2.
Yep.
And Anthony Richardson called his own number, did a quarterback draw, and he scored the 2-point conversion. Interestingly enough, though, on the actual touchdown drive, they got down. It was 1st and goal, I think, at like the 6 or 7 yard line. I don't know if they tried to give the ball I know Jonathan Taylor was there. I don't know if they did like an RPO where he kept it. I remember he was in the pile with Richardson, but Richardson tried to run it at least once, got stuffed. Then I think they gave it to Taylor. I might be mistaken, or somebody else on a short play. They got stuffed, and he had to throw the pass. I think it was 4th down, wasn't it, that they scored the touchdown on? It
was 4th and goal.
Yeah, because they had a couple plays inside that 5, and they kept getting stuffed. And you're like, all right. Getting nervous because Anthony Richardson can run in a 6-yard draw play, but he kept getting stuffed, so he had to throw it for the touchdown. But then he ran it in. He did it again from the 2-yard line and kept it for the 2-point conversion to win by 1 point, right near the buzzer. Like you said, I didn't know they even had that field goal attempt at the end there for the New England to try and do a miraculous win.
Oh yeah. So that drive started with 5 minutes and 34 seconds.
Oh wow, that's so good. That is so. We've talked about this so many times on the show. Using that last, it's hard to use all the time and still get where you have to get to. And keep the other team off the field, because at worst they were going to be they were going to lose if they didn't score. They couldn't go for a field goal. You know what I mean? That's impressive. That's like and I think most of the time that's happened. These rookies have been doing these awesome time management comeback drives. That is so impressive.
Yeah, it was 7 first downs in that drive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What was the Anthony Richardson's passing percentage? I thought I saw it was pretty bad, like 11 for like 24 or something. But
I got you. Hold on. Box score.
But I could be mistaken.
No, yeah. Anthony Richardson, 12 for 24, 50%.
All right, look at that.
But 2 touchdowns. He did have 2 interceptions. But that rushing touchdown, Jonathan Taylor had 25 carries for only 96 yards. So they weren't like, this wasn't an explosive plays happening with these types of players, which it should have been. And maybe, not having, what's his name, the receiver missing from this, that it would have been a little bit more. But like I said, the Patriots played good, man. They were in it, they were in it for this whole thing. Ramondre Stevenson had a 32-yard rush, like a long rush. This was not a gimme for sure. They earned it.
All right, let's get into another game.
Okay. Let's got Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 44-38. That's right. 44-38. That they definitely covered the over.
I feel like this game was close most of the time. Well, I think what was the final score? I'm sorry, say it again.
44-38.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like Pittsburgh got up early by a little bit. Maybe it was 10-zip or 14 something, because the scores were like 24-21. It was always within 7 to 11 points, except maybe for the first two scores. Well, the first score was a pick 6, right?
Yeah, it was back and forth. So it was first quarter was 14-7 Cincinnati. So this was a back and forth, and then Pittsburgh scored 20 in the second quarter.
Yeah. And it sounded like Russell Wilson was doing. I mean, I think he started out with a pick six to get Cincinnati on the board, and then after that, he was dealing. Sounded like to me. And I saw Najee Harris getting a lot of good runs. I don't know how Jalen Warren did. I just don't know. I didn't see his stat line pop up too much. But Pickens scored a touchdown. I don't know. Jamar Chase caught an awkward touchdown early in the game, and then I guess they just spread it around because no one had a huge day out of these guys.
Yeah, it was for sure spread it around. So Najee had his 54 receiving yards, right? 75 rushing yards. Pickens had a touchdown. Calvin Austin III had a touchdown reception. Pat Freiermuth had a touchdown reception, and Peyton Wilson had a 21-yard fumble return for a touchdown. So everybody was getting a touchdown today.
Nice.
Yeah,
and then was Pittsburgh up by like 10 or 14 points, and that last touchdown by to make the game closer was not really relevant except for maybe desperation. Cincinnati, I think, scored last.
Yeah, Cincinnati. So Cincinnati had what is it? So it was going into the fourth quarter. It was 34 Pittsburgh, 24 Cincinnati. So they were down by 2 scores going into the fourth quarter.
All right, nice job there. Yeah, that's a big rebound for the Steelers. Who did they lose last week or 2 weeks ago? They played so well, and I think they've hit a little bump on the road the last 2 weeks, but. With Baltimore continuing to lose, they're going to stay where they're at.
Yeah, this was definitely the highest scoring first half that they've ever had in their 2 meetings. So this is a pretty impressive offensive showing. But the defenses were there. The offensives just took over though, Okay.
All right. We can move along to the next game here.
Yep. Los Angeles Chargers defeated the Atlanta Falcons 17-13.
Oh my gosh. I know you got a lot to say on this one as well. I watched this entire thing. First of all, Bijan Robinson got a lot of work. That was fun. He finished with a good day. So I sound like I'm greedy or complaining. The thing I didn't like, though, they kept having him run up the middle instead of throwing him screen passes like to the edge.
Yeah.
He got like 25 carry. He had 20 carries in the first half, but they were like all right at the middle. All of his big plays were to the edges. They threw him like a couple screens, and every time they did, he'd get like an 18-yard play. And I'm like, Kirk Cousins. I know his stats are awful, but he looked awful.
Yeah,
I didn't see one ball that had any zip on it. They were all just flutter balls into crowds. I'm like, what are you doing, man? These aren't going to go well. And the defense for Atlanta was dominating. Atlanta dominated this game in everything except Kirk Cousins, really.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins could have been just a game manager here, and they would have run away with this as they kept missing. They missed field goals. They got stopped on fourth. They turned the ball over on fourth downs, like in scoring, in the vicinity of scoring. They finished with 17 points. They easily should have had 30 points in this game.
Easily. Well, they finished with 13 points. The Chargers had
13. Right. Sorry. 13. Right.
Oh yeah. This was easily a loss by Kirk Cousins himself. Like you said, Atlanta defense, they were all over Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert was 16 for 23, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He had 5 sacks, lost for 19 yards. On the other side, we had 24 for 39 from Kirk Cousins, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions. 4. And one was a pick six.
Was one a pick six? You said one was a pick six?
Yep.
One was a pick six. I feel like at least one was like, if not 2, or like when they're getting ready to score, they were like thrown in the end zone or at the 1-yard line or something around there. So he gave points to the other team, and then he stopped his own team from scoring when they were going to score. They were already in field goal range on half of his interceptions. And they only lost, final score was 17-13, right?
Yep. 17-13.
So two field goals, and they had this. Now, Young Shui Koo was a little banged up. He missed a kick earlier, and I think they were trying to avoid doing anything longer than 42-yard field goals.
Yeah, which he missed a 35 one. Yeah.
That's the one he missed, yeah. So they were trying to I understood going for it as often as they did, but I didn't like the play calling they were doing because Kirk Cousins' arm was just a noodle today, and they kept putting it on that noodle arm when they could have been doing other plays. If they knew they were going to go for 4th down, you're like, we know it's going to take us 2 plays. We have 2 plays to get this extra 7 yards. Stop doing flutter balls when you can maybe do another run or a screen pass or something shorter and see if your guys can break them. And if you go only half of that, then you only have 3 yards to go instead of they're always at 3rd and 8 on a guy who could not throw the ball today in a crowd.
Exactly. And not to keep piling on Cousins, but we should pile on Cousins. This is his second 4 interception game of his career, right? The Falcons' last two possessions ended with an interception. The last one was an interception in the end zone, I think. The Chargers, they managed only 2 first downs in the second half. And this is the big one here. Chargers won despite being outgained 350 yards to 187 yards.
Yeah, that's awful. That hurts so bad for the Atlanta defense. They did more than enough to win this game.
Oh yeah,
and the Atlanta offense, or Kirk Cousins, really, because like Bijan was fine. Can't blame the receivers too much because they weren't really put in any position by Cousins. Like Cousins he could have done anything but what he did today, and they would have won this game.
Yeah. So the Chargers are now 8-4 playoffs. They're in their sights now. Falcons fall 6-6 with their third straight loss. And the Chargers get to go to Kansas City next Sunday.
Big game. All right, let's move this along here.
All right. Seattle Seahawks defeated the New York Jets 26-21.
So in this game, just starting off, there was some question whether Breece Hall was going to play or not. He was active. I don't know if it was body maintenance here. He was getting shuffled around a lot, not just with Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen got like the first 2 drives. I was very nervous. And then, I forget the guy's name, number 32, who scored one of the touchandowns on a shovel pass.
Isaiah Davis.
Okay. He was getting a lot of work. I've never seen him before. He was getting a lot of work today. And did you watch this game at all?
I watched a little bit of it, yeah.
So they were doing again, I was watching more for Breece Hall here. They were having him do some of those middle screens where you kind of, you fake the block and then you kind of just get through the crowd and kind of sit right in front of the quarterback. And Breece Hall can catch and turn up field. And every time they did that, the screen was set up and I don't know if the pressure was getting to him a little bit. Rodgers would like throw the ball into the dirt at his feet, like doing like a fadeaway throw. Rodgers is not looking good. He completes 3 pretty balls every 2 drives. Like there he is. But he throws 4 other ones at the people's feet that are drive killers.
Yeah.
And Devontae Adams looked pretty good today, actually, of that combination. But it's not so much whether or not Aaron Rodgers can throw it. He can make throws. He doesn't always make throws. He kills drives. And just that face he makes when something bad happens is just like, I don't know if he was mad at the play call. He threw it at the feet of Breece Hall. And then he was like, come on, man. And Breece Hall just walked back. I can't imagine what's going through his head. Like, well, why don't you get the ball to my freaking hands? Like, it wasn't even close to him. He threw it right at his feet before he turned around.
Yeah.
At worst, he could be like, turn around earlier. But like, you could tell he wasn't supposed to turn around yet. He barely got through the line.
Yeah, Breece was having a rough day. He had 2 fumbles and one was a lost fumble. So, he was definitely having a rough day today. This is one of those games. Sorry, this is one of those games that fell into our theme where the one team got out to a big lead, and then the other team slowly came back. Jets were up this whole game until towards the fourth quarter there. Oh yeah, for sure. And this despite Kenneth Walker only having 16 carries for 49 yards. And Zach Charbonnet it wasn't like Zach was taking those rushing things either. He only had 4 carries for 28 yards. So, for Geno to be on the dud list, for this to be 26-21, the Jets they need to figure something out.
This game had tons of fumbles and I think there's interceptions, but tons of fumbles. Oh, there's a pick 6. That's right. Rodgers threw a pick 6, 92 yards, I believe it was, by big Leonard Williams. Ran all the way down the field. He looked good running down that sideline. It was a lot of I don't say good defense, but defensive plays or offenses making mistakes that the defensives capitalized. Both the Jets were moving the ball. They were similar to the Falcons. They moved the ball and then would like have a big mistake that killed drives. Or a bad third down, wouldn't connect on a third down that killed drives. Did their kicker miss a couple kicks today, I think, too? I'm not sure. I think they did. But nonetheless, we can move along next game unless you have something else on this one.
No, this was not a pretty game to watch. So, okay. Houston Texans defeated the Jags 23-20.
I assumed this was going to be a blowout. I did not watch this game. I just saw the highlight or the replay of the big hit on Trevor Lawrence. And then I looked at the score and I saw it was a pretty close game. I don't know how it happened. Maybe you can enlighten us a little bit how this game was even so close, and we can talk about that injury and big hit. Yeah,
so Texans, they were up 23-6, and then Lawrence left in the second quarter after that big hit. It basically had Mac Jones come in. He led a fourth quarter comeback attempt. We'll call it an attempt here. And it was basically Mac Jones. He had 2 touchdowns. It was almost like garbage time. I think the Texans they were trying not to lose the game. But once Joe Mixon had that touchdown at the end of the game, he or the first down at the end, it kind of sealed it up for them. Mac Jones played bad. Because he had 2 passing touchdowns, I wouldn't say that it was good by any means. There is a guy, what is his name on the Texans? I don't have his name written down. Shoot.
What position?
Not on the wide receiver for the Jags.
Parker Washington?
Yes, Parker Washington. Thank you. Came out of nowhere, man. I don't know. He looked really good. So he was making the catches. He was running hard, and he looked really good. So maybe he's got a thing with Mac Jones in practice where that was some timing gold.
All right, a little update here on our fantasy. I can't help it, but because Bernie's not watching this game, he's afraid. Not afraid. He does what I do. can't watch. They are now kneeling the ball out. You
Nice.
are up by 2.25 points. San Francisco defense has 0 points. Deebo Samuel at 4. I think you were up by 7.25 points, or no, whatever it was. Looks like you're going to survive here, man. San Francisco has all 3 timeouts. They are not calling them. I think one more kneel down is going to end it. Yep, they're under 40 seconds. Bernie, you are still alive in your playoff hunt. You still need some help next week, but you are alive.
I'm alive. Call me Trey McBride.
Yeah, right?
Alive. It's alive. It's alive.
All right. Minnesota Vikings defeated the Arizona Cardinals. Is this a shocking one? 23-22. Another really close game. But unlike the other close games, these are 2 good offenses that made it a close game.
So this is one of those other games similar to the Jets. I felt like there was 3 or 4 games like this. Arizona was dominating this game. They were up the whole time. They just couldn't score. They had only 1 touchdown, kept going for field goals. Ryland had a big day, the kicker who filled in as he had 5 field goals. I think he might have missed a kick too. I'm not sure if he missed one or not, but he had 5 field goals. Kyler Murray had a couple costly at least 1 costly interception. This game was just a team gets up. They put it on coast a little too early.
Yeah. And
the other team comes back. What was it? The Vikings scored their go-ahead touchdown with Aaron Jones, who had a rough day today, but he caught the touchdown. Not too much time left. Under 2 minutes, I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but it was a late touchdown that they took the lead with on that score. And then Arizona, you're like, all right, we got one more chance to move down the field. And except for like 1 10 or 12-yard run for Murray, he just couldn't complete the passes on the big drive, and they pretty much stalled out pretty quickly. And the game ended there at 23-22.
Yeah, Murray really, he was the linchpin in this one. He had 2 fourth-quarter interceptions and a lost fumble.
There you go.
So it was tough to see this one. The Vikings defense couldn't contain him early, couldn't contain the offense early, but they definitely, once the pressure came, once the blitzes start happening, it was hard for them to get anything going here. So yeah, you pretty much nailed it though. Let me see if I got any notable things here. No. That's pretty much it. The Vikings improved to 10-2, so they stay 1 game behind Detroit as we head into the playoff push here.
So we had, in terms of NFL divisions here, we have a couple divisions that are close. The NFC South and the NFC West are all in that 500 range, and some lower teams that are trying to catch up. So both teams that were in the lead there in Arizona in terms of the West and Atlanta in terms of the South both lost, and the teams chasing them won in the Tampa Bay Bucks in the Atlanta division, and Seattle won in the division against Arizona. So these teams have a chance to pull away a little bit, and they just stand on that 500 mark here. Yeah. Arizona was looking so good a couple weeks ago, and after a couple losses, now they're right back into the pile with those other teams.
Okay, let's move on to a more exciting game on one side of the football. Washington Commanders defeated the Tennessee Titans 42-19.
I watched this game, but there was not a lot to keep track of here. Brian Robinson started the day with a long touchdown run, and that pretty much kind of sealed the fate here. As like last week, Levis was in between doing awful plays and having a big touchdown. This time, he couldn't get any big plays. He just doesn't look good. They keep saying like he's learning. I'm like, he's played about 20 starts now, man. At a certain point, like he's starting to realize that the pocket will close on him. He has to step up, but he'll learn. Like, if you don't have that sense by now, I mean, you might not be able to escape. Kind of like how early in the year we saw Bo Nix not getting away, but he felt the pressure and was running away. Like, he felt it and wasn't actually getting all the way away. Levis has no idea where this stuff is. He just gets knocked around, sacks. I think another interception, or you can double check his stats there. But every time I looked up, he was making another mistake. He's sliding down, taking sacks. He's good at that. But that's about it. He's really hard to watch.
Yeah, it is. This game was out of hand from the get-go. The Commanders, they scored 21 points in the first quarter. That's the first time since 2015 for them. Then they built a 28-0 lead in just over 19 minutes. So they had full control of this game. The Westbrook-Ikhine was the highlight for the Titans. So it was rough to watch. All right.
Yeah. He scored a touchdown again for his, that's his, like 7 out of 8 games or something like that.
Yeah. It's like it's I don't know. I don't have a season.
They said he has 8 touchdowns in his last 8 games, and I think he had 2 today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but he only has like 20-something receptions for the season. And so he's basically just Mr. Touchdown. So if you got him on your fantasy team, he's probably a good play if you're in dire need of a touchdown. All right, Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the Carolina Panthers in a thrilling overtime game, 26-23.
Bryce Young is back. He looks so good out there.
Wait. You can't start with that.
Okay.
You know why?
Why?
Because he was never here. So
that's fair.
He can't be back.
Bryce Young has arrived.
There it is. There it is. He looked great.
For the second or maybe the third straight week, but was it last week where he had that great drive? I don't know, whatever. He's had a couple late drives in games where he looked really good in the fourth quarter. Today he looked good all game long. Yeah. The score was kind of low scoring a little bit. We had some missed kicks. His kicker missed 3 kicks today, which was what kept the game close. They were moving the ball. Chuba Hubbard was not doing as well, so which makes sense. Tampa Bay is a much better rush defense than pass defense, so we kind of saw this one as a potential good day for Young. But usually he's been game managing, but he was ripping in some great throws today. Oh yeah. Adam Thielen has great hands.
Oh man,
they called a touchdown that they said he didn't catch a touchdown earlier in the game.
That was a catch. I saw it. It was a catch.
He caught it.
Yeah.
The reason was they never showed a camera from the other side of the field. Yeah. Because he caught the ball this way and rolled over, and the camera they kept showing was this one. So as he rolled his shoulder, you couldn't see what the ball was doing here.
Yeah.
And because the ref called it incomplete on the field, I could be convinced it might have been incomplete, but there was nothing that showed me it was.
Well, if they would have called it a touchdown on the field,
it would have been a touchdown.
It would have been a touchdown, right?
Right, exactly. So this is one of those things. I mean, the ref was right there. He was in the wrong position. His eyes were looking straight down at the ball, so maybe he saw a little, movement with the ball in the hand there. But let's put it this way: he had complete control of that ball. If his hand slid up the side of the ball halfway, it's because the other hand had it. That was a great catch, but they called it a non-catch. And then later, which would have been a huge play. And should I skip to overtime, or you want to get to the Bucky Irving stuff before we get to the overtime stuff?
No. Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in overtime, we had was it a missed kick by Tampa Bay won the toss. They did not score. I forget how they didn't score, if it was a missed kick or not. I think it was a missed kick because the other team started with pretty good field position. And I believe it was a third down where they weren't in field goal range yet, or it would have been a very long kick for Carolina. And Bryce Young threw it. Was a nice ball, but not perfectly accurate. But Adam Thielen was able, so he was running this way and saw it was going to be on the other side of him. So opened up his hand, one left hand, just snatched that ball. His gloves did a lot of the work there. Completely controlled it. And that was a huge play because if they didn't get that third down, they were going to have to either make a decision on going for it, punting it, be a long kick. But that catch put him in prime time field goal range. Then Chuba Hubbard fumbled at his next carry, or one of the next 2 carries.
No, it was the next play.
Yeah, they got on such a high on converting a big third down to keep not only keep the drive going, but get them into field goal range. And being that it was the second possession of overtime, all they needed was a field goal to win the game. And that turnover was huge. Like we mentioned before, Bucky Irving controlled the second half as the Tampa Bay Bucks took the lead, it went back and forth basically because of turnovers. Mayfield had 2 interceptions in that second half, but every time they held on the ball, Bucky Irving was the man. It was a good game. For the third or fourth straight week, these Carolina Panthers are in these games and they keep coming up short, which is actually perfect for what they're trying to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. Coach keeps his job. Everybody's happy. And they still get a high draft pick at the end of the season. So it's going to work out for them. I have a feeling. Bryce Young, he looked good. So just a couple of notes. Pinheiro, the kicker for the Carolinas, he missed 2 field goals.
Okay.
After a record 41 straight makes at home. So I think if he wouldn't have missed those 2 field goals, they might not have tried that Chuba Hubbard run to get closer because they were in field goal range after Thielen's catch. They might have tried it just to get a little bit closer, but it was already your possession to win.
It's hard to kick the ball on first or second down. So you do
like
1 or 2
happens.
runs to even get an extra 5, 6, 8 yards. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when are we going to learn that like stuff like this is going to happen in the NFL these days? Like nothing is given, and if it's a botched snap, at least you have, that's why we would kick on third down before, because if it's a botched snap, at least you can get the ball, hold on to it, and get another shot at something on fourth down. Right. So, it's
You're right, though. Not only did he miss the 2 field goals, but he barely made an extra point early that just snuck inside the upright. So he was a little off all day. So I could see, honestly, coaching wise, I don't think that's wrong. Trying to get a couple, you hand it to your sure-handed running back,
and it wasn't Hubbard's fault here. Let me see. Do I have the name of the guy who?
The guy had an awesome punch by as he drove by. Yeah. Punched the ball out. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. Chuba Hubbard had both hands on the ball, and this guy I think he just came out of nowhere and basically didn't even try to tackle Hubbard. He basically tried to grab the ball with 2 hands as Hubbard was falling. So, and
it was the defensive end because the Hubbard's running up the middle just to kind of get those couple yards, get a little closer, maybe set the kick up.
Yeah.
And the guy, I don't know, maybe chucked his tight end that he was going with and then came in from the side. So Hubbard never saw him. He came in straight from the side down the line of scrimmage. There's a big man who came in just full on punching at the ball.
Yeah. Tough loss, but it's okay. It's okay. Now we know that Bryce can play. Now we know that Adam Thielen is still viable wide receiver 1. So those are all good notes to have going into these last couple of games, or I should say last game, or next season. So all right, moving along here. Los Angeles Rams defeated the New Orleans Saints 21-14.
There was not much going on in this game, especially the first half. What was the first half score? Like 10-6?
Oh my gosh.
7-6, I think.
Maybe. Hold on a second. Yeah. I'll tell you. 6-0 at halftime.
Okay. And that was New Orleans was up 6-0?
Yep, with 2 long field goals.
Okay, yeah. I know they had the 2 kicks. I know they had 6 points. I didn't know when the first touchdown came. And then all of a sudden, Kyron Williams got that first touchdown early in the second half.
Yeah.
And then they just started going. Puka Nacua caught a touchdown. Demarcus Robinson caught a touchdown. They started scoring a ton in that second half. What was the final score in this one again?
21-14. No field goals.
21-14. New Orleans scored 1 touchdown. They got a 2-point conversion, I believe, to get to that 14 number.
Yep.
And New Orleans couldn't do too much. Kamara was doing okay. And Derek Carr was throwing the ball a ton. I saw like 23 pass attempts in the first quarter, something ridiculous.
Yeah, he didn't play bad. He played okay. I wasn't mad at it. I just think there was a couple situations where they were at the goal. They were inside like the 10, and they just wouldn't hand the ball off to Alvin Kamara. Yeah, it's like you're trying too much like trickery. Like you've got this guy, you either throw him a screen pass or just hand him the ball. And I think they could have gotten a couple more scores, I believe, out of this game.
Especially when the receivers aren't the strength of their team. The only receivers that they have are like long, like deep route runners or just kind of one-hit wonders. Scantling again, I think did he score a touchdown today?
He had a nice 28-yard touchdown reception. Yep.
He's been pretty productive in the last 5 weeks since he's joined this team here. Actually, he's doing okay.
But that's it. Like he scored it, and I was like, "Oh man, I got points on my bench," and it was like 10 points, a little over 10 points.
Right.
And then that was it. It's like they don't use him for anything else.
No, he's a 3-catch guy at the most in a game.
Yeah. So the play calling is suspect to me in this because they've got talent on this team for the most part. They could come up with something a little bit better, like on the other side, like what McVay does. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, how you were talking about, you wish you get a little more action for Kamara there. Taysom Hill was getting usage all around the field, not as big in numbers as the last game, obviously, but he was getting receptions, getting rushes. Was like I said, wasn't filling up the stat sheet at all there, but definitely playing time. He left the game getting a helmet to his knee, so I don't know if it was just like a bad body shock bruise or if it really cracked his kneecap. I didn't see it, so maybe you have some more enlightenment on that. But my point here is, if Taysom Hill misses any time, that is great news for you as just a Kamara manager here, looking to get as many points in this last game where you are on a must-win Week 14. So not that we want anyone to get hurt, but when it aligns with like your players, the situation is already there, and it might give Kamara more of an upside for next week.
Exactly, and it's not that Kamara didn't have it. He reached a century mark. He had 112 yards. But he just didn't have any touchdowns, but those touchdowns were there for him to have. So, yeah, it's one of those things. Okay. Moving on here. Let's go. Philadelphia Eagles beat the Baltimore Ravens 24-19. And I know this was a scary game for you because the guy you were playing had Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, and one of those guys did good and one of those guys did meh.
I was at first, what was it? Who got up first? Was it Baltimore got up first, right? Didn't they score like 2 field goals and a touchdown?
Yeah, the Ravens were up 9-0 was the early lead.
9-0, okay.
And then
so I was like, okay, they're
Eagles
stopping this
twice
game
in the second quarter to make it 14-9.
Right. I was more scared of Barkley because he can. I don't know. They're both terrifying.
Yeah. But
when they got up, now that they take Barkley out he's still a pass catching running back. But I was like, okay, they're in passing mode. Good. No Barkley for a little bit, and then they took the lead. And I'm like, oh, now they're on Barkley, kill the clock mode. And that's where he got most of his points in that fourth quarter. He got a touchdown, and he got a lot of rushes. He got a ton of rushes in that second half because he was actually pretty pedestrian. And I was just like, and then once they got up, I'm like, all right, they're not going to pass the ball to Henry, so that was good. And then they scored on a long drive, on a long run. I'm like, oh, crap, they're getting the ball. It was just, they both had the ball at one point or the other. So every time you're like, this is not going to go well. A lot of 3-and-outs for Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there were any turnovers, but there were a lot of short drives that had Baltimore was in the lead for a long time, even though that wasn't a high score. Because Philadelphia wasn't doing anything. And then once they got on track a little bit, that's all they needed because Baltimore forgot how to score.
Yeah. The Eagles are one of those teams where you think that they are going to do, okay, this is a passing situation for the next, 3 or 4 drives. No, it's not. Saquon will still get his rushes. And it's one of those things where Saquon he always seems to be a part of it, of the offense, no matter what the situation is. But not having Henry only finished with here. What did he finish here with? 82 rushing yards. He did have 3 catches for 29 yards, but I think those were like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get sacked. Let me get the ball out of my hands and get it to Henry. Without him getting into the end zone, why are we not? It's the same with Kamara. Like, why are we not? I know you're within 10 yards. Why are you not 2-3 downs handing it to Derrick Henry to get in the end zone?
The thing about Henry, I've had him on my teams 2.5 years in a row prior to this season.
Mm-hmm.
I like when they give him screen passes. Yeah. I know they always say he's not a good catcher. He catches good enough if you throw it out there to him.
Yeah.
Because he's one of those guys, he's a slow starter, but he's a big momentum guy, obviously.
Yeah.
If you can get him out in space and get his first three running steps without anyone in front of him to slow him down, then that fifth step with smaller guys coming at him, he gets his long runs or long plays a lot of times on those screen passes to the outside where he just takes him a while to get going and then just cranks through everybody. He doesn't get just 5-yard screens. When he catches a screen, he had like 2 16-yard screen passes today. And I was nervous they were going to be longer, but
So you're saying, hey, coach, you know what they do with Tyreek over there in Miami? They put him in motion, and then they're throwing him the ball because now he's already got a head start because he's in motion. Same thing with Henry. Let's get him moving. It's going to be the opposite. He's not going to outrun anybody, but he's going to run over somebody.
At least 1 out of every 6 to 8 plays, kind of thing.
And most of his big, like, I'm going to run you over plays is in the third and fourth quarter. Like when they needed him to do it, because everybody's a little bit gassed, but he's so big that you're not going to, he's definitely going to run through guys. So
So on this one, I always do like the fantasy math, like what could happen. Being that Saquon Barkley has already had last week, he had 270 plus yard rushing touchdowns. We've seen Derrick Henry have long touchdowns. I'm like, all right, there's 6 minutes left. There's a total of 300 yards left in this game if they go up and down, and like 3 touchdowns. I'm like, oh, that equals like 40. That's like 35 points. Wow. So every time there was like a play that wasn't one of those guys, I'm like, that takes away a chunk. But Barkley in the one drive got like carry, catch, touchdown. I'm like, oh crap, here it comes. But they needed to do that 3 times. They only did the 1 time, luckily.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. So I don't know if this stat is correct. Is this Lamar Jackson's first loss versus the NFC since 2023?
Well, that's just last year.
Okay.
So it could be. They have a lot of crazy winning streaks. Remember they had like 8 straight years without losing a preseason game or something?
No, I don't watch preseason. That's why I'm so bad at fantasy football. Okay, let's go here. So any big notes in this one? No, Eagles improved to 10-2. They lead the NFC East. No, nothing. This is it. This is pretty good. So good on that. That was the last game, buddy. Anything else on this game?
No. Let's see. So we don't have notes on here, obviously, but we are recording this as the Sunday night game just finished up. Buffalo destroyed San Francisco. San Francisco loses again. We saw McCaffrey. I don't think he came back in the game. I'm not sure his long-term prognosis. Keep an eye on that. So once again, go ahead.
So I heard earlier today in some of the pre-game shows that everybody thought that San Francisco had the better chance of winning this game because of the cold, because they're a better running team. So all they had to do was run the ball.
Well, in all fairness, McCaffrey looked awesome. This is the best he looked all year. That first quarter and a half, he was getting big chunk plays. But James Cook had a lot of long runs today. So did Josh Allen. So I mean, I would say
the better rushing outcome won the game. So they were right. They just got the team wrong.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but yeah. All right, let's get into some early waiver wire thoughts here. I have mostly quarterbacks again. Do you want to get going, or let me just go off some guys here?
Yeah, go off. Let me pull it up here. Go ahead.
Okay. We got Cooper Rush is playing against Cincinnati next week on Monday night. Cincinnati games seem to be pretty high scoring. Once again, Pittsburgh had a big high score against them. We had Baltimore with a huge high score against them a couple weeks ago. I forget who they played last week. Oh, they were on bye last week. That's right. So just keep an eye on that. I don't know if CeeDee Lamb's availability going forward here. So it is a Monday night game, but Cincinnati tends to have some pretty big scores. Aaron Rodgers, I don't love it. They're playing against Miami. Miami's defense is okay, pretty good. I don't love that, but I'm just saying he's out there. Aiden O'Connell, again, not the name, but the matchup here against Tampa Bay. We saw Bryce Young have a very good day today against Tampa Bay, and Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders. They can't run.
Aiden didn't look bad.
No, he had some good throws actually in that Kansas City comeback, right? So they don't run the ball very well, and they won't be able to run the ball against Tampa Bay. This might be one of those random streaming starts of Aiden O'Connell. And I think that's it. There's Bryce Young here.
There's one more. Bryce Young for week 15. If you make it into the playoffs, he's got a good matchup there. But Derek Carr next week goes against the Giants, and the Giants are a little dinged up on the defensive side of the ball now. So that might be actually a good start.
All right. So, well, the receivers here, the only one that kind of caught my attention, I guess there's Parker Washington out there. You gotta trust Jacksonville. You gotta trust Mac Jones. I don't know if I would do that.
No.
But Dallas Goedert, they're playing against Carolina. They give up the most points to the tight end overall anyway. That's also going to be contingent. That's a matchup play and also contingent on the availability of someone like Devontae Smith, for example. So not an automatic get, but the matchup's good, and he is a part of their offense, especially around the goal line. Do you have any other offensive players? I got a couple defenses here.
If you trust Will Levis, then let me read the last 3 weeks off. 18.7 points. No. 18.7 points. 11.8 points and 19.6 points for Mr. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine for the past 3 weeks. and he's going up against Jacksonville, which is the third worst defense for wide receivers next week.
That was the thing about Calvin Ridley that I liked and started playing it more often. Their schedule is sweet, but it's hard. It's hard to trust that Tennessee offense.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any more offensive players, or can I go to these defenses here?
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
One more note on Akinye. He's had a touchdown, like you were saying, since week 6 in every single game except for week 10, and he had 2 today.
Right, that's what it was. 8 out of 8, 7 games out of those 8 he scored.
Yeah.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so my defenses this week are in the same game. We have Tennessee versus Jacksonville. So Tennessee has been a pretty good defense, but they're playing against a backup quarterback in Mac Jones. That's always, we like backup quarterbacks. And on the other side of the same coin, we have Jacksonville up against Tennessee. We always like playing against Will Levis, as he is due for at least 4 sacks and an interception that might go the other way. These aren't great plays, but they're matchup plays here, so keep that in mind.
Well, and you're gonna need the touchdown on the defensive side of that, because, like I just said, Westbrook Ikhine is going to get a touchdown.
Gotcha.
So you're not going to shut anybody out.
All right, guys, I think that's it for today. I don't really have anything ready to go here. So with that being said, don't forget you can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Amazon Music, and YouTube Music. Just search Wingman the League on those platforms if you want to listen to our podcast. If you're not sure if you want to watch or listen, you can go ahead to wingmanentertainment.net/podcast. Both mediums are available there. And if you want to watch, we're starting to put a lot more graphics and sound effects, guys. So it's worth the watch. If you go over to our YouTube channel at, let's see if I can pull this up real quick, at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube. There it is, /YouTube. Go ahead there and go ahead and leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell and leave a comment. I want to make a quick point here. Ken, I just noticed, I don't know why it took me all week. You put a really long comment. I appreciate you took a lot of time. I'll respond to it just a little more later because I know you put a lot of time. I don't want to slough it off. So leave a comment on there and we will address them as best we can in shows going forward in our mailbag segment. With that being said, guys, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty.
And my first round draft pick, like probably yours, is kind of like the bar tab. It's painful to look at, but you got to own it.
All right, there you go, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope everyone has a safe holiday. We'll see you next time.